everybody, or good afternoon, and welcome to your Monday edition of the Trader Merlin show. It is a Monday, and it is April, and I tell you what, I fell for some April Fool's jokes, hook, line, and sinker. I didn't even think that one of them was an April Fool's joke, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. April Fool's, God, it got me again. Anyway, hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to a fun trading weekend, as you can tell by the, I didn't even put my my graphic up here. Hold on, let me get my graphic going for everybody so we can see the wonderful image that I had AI create for me today. And there she blows. Oil going to 100. So I'm going to do something a little bit different here today. I'm going to start by doing a poll. And I know we don't have a lot of people here, but I'm just kind of curious to see if we will get a difference of opinions on this one from the beginning of the show until the end of the show. Because I always like, in my mind, have an idea of what I think is going to happen with a specific market, industry, sector, stock, option, whatever. Have an idea, and then I try to back it up with a bunch of facts to really drive home or support my decision, or maybe even sway me to not make that decision. So I am going to ask you this question right here, which is, and it's in the chat right now, so the podcasters, I know you can't answer this one. Apparently my chat froze up here. So are we going? What's going on here? I think we're going. My chat just doesn't decide to show the poll here. The poll is going to be, are we going to see crude oil at $100 by the end of the year? And it didn't take my poll. So let me redo this one. Or at least I'll try to do it. I don't know what something skipped over here or not. There we go. And I'm going to add a third one. No, I drive a Tesla. Okay, so let's try this again. So for whatever, there it goes. Finally going. There we go. There's your poll. Is oil going to 100 by the end of the year? Meaning 100 or over. So even 100 and a penny at any point between now and the end of the year. Yes or no? You guys let me know what you think. And again, there is no right or wrong answer, right? At this point, it's just we have crazy news. Not crazy. We have significant news coming out from OPEC about production cuts, which is the second one in the last 6 months. So now they're cutting even more, which means supply starts to decline. If demand stays the same, prices are going up, but there might be other factors here to look at. So let me start with just looking at the chart of crude oil today. I'm a little irritated. As you guys know, I have been long XLE. So here's XLE. And last week on Monday, when I had a chance to rewrite my options, I sold some calls against my position. Crude oil, or XLE, was trading around $79. I'm like, you know what? I'll sell the 84s because it just felt like that was a decent price percentage-wise. And today we jumped up to 86. So anything from here on out, I don't gain on my XLE, which is fine because I made profit that I wanted. But anyway, that's XLE. Let's look at the price of crude oil, which had a much bigger jump than XLE today. We know what's noteworthy here with your crude oil is you are sitting right at a supply zone. Now, granted, this is not a great supply zone, but we had a yellow box drawn around that a while back. I recently took it off because we breached it to the south side here, but I think we can probably muster it back in. Right? This was the snap mode. This was the original zone that we had mapped out. And you can see right now, you're right near the upper top portion of that. So I was actually looking at maybe taking a huge risk today and saying, you know what? Maybe I will go and buy some puts outright today, but the premium was really high on those, and I thought it was a little bit too risky for me to make that trade right now. So I did not buy puts. But just putting into perspective where we are, we're kind of back up at the top end of that yellow box. Now, again, the more time that this hits that ceiling, if you will, of that yellow box, the more likely it's going to rip through. The news today, again, for anybody who may have missed it, was that OPEC was going to cut production by another 1.16 million barrels per day. That brings their cuts since October of last year to a decline of 3.36 million barrels per day. So let me show the results of the poll here. And sorry, the jackhammer is really loud today. So 66% of you said no or yes, 30% of you said no, and 2% of you said, nah, I drive a Tesla. There you go. I like it. I had a typo in that. I drive a Tesla. I drive a Tesla. Hey, it sounds like Italiano here. So, all right. So at this point, most of us are thinking we'll probably see crude oil over 100. So let's look at that chart real quick, map out 100 so we can kind of get perspective as to where that is in relationship to where we are right now. So I'm going to drop this horizontal line. I'm going to drop it there, and I'll just double click so I can type it in, 100. So now the question is, what are the factors that's going to cause crude oil to potentially get back to that 100 mark, which, as you can see, there's obviously several points that are going to be difficult for crude oil. We are at one right now, which is called $82, right? That's a tough spot. But you also have this other area where it kind of double tapped back in October of last year when they initially started doing the cuts. And then it hit it in November, which is right around, call it 92.50. So those are your three levels that I'm looking at right now. I know. Doesn't mean Saudi's working along with Russia. So it's OPEC plus, correct. And I'll show you what OPEC plus is here in just a second. So, those are the levels I'm looking at right now. What's it going to take to push this up from current levels all the way up to that 100 price point? And just to put that in perspective, that would be a gain of roughly 24% from current levels. Okay, not that anything is impossible, but now let's look at some of the factors which may support that argument or go against it, and then we'll do the poll here just just in a minute. So, to go to Ganesha's comment, it's OPEC plus, not OPEC. Yeah, so I ran through all the OPEC countries, and this is a question that came through from Tim. Tim says, how does OPEC have so much control over oil price? Well, the U.S. is the largest producer of oil in the world. We produce far more than any other country specifically. Now, OPEC combined does more than us, but we produce, I think in the U.S., if I'm not mistaken, 12.4 million barrels per day. Yet the challenge here is we consume more than that. So we produce, let's call it rounding up and say 13 million barrels per day, but we consume 20 million barrels per day, which means we have a 7 million barrel deficit that we got to make up from somewhere. Because, in my mind, I look at these numbers and go, well, hell, if we're the largest producer of oil in the world, can't we just look over to Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, all these countries and just go, I'm flipping you the bird, take your oil, I don't need any of it. Tired of this drama. Well, we still have a deficit with regards to domestic oil production, so we have to get our oil from somewhere. So that's, Tim says here, why does OPEC have such control over oil prices? Well, they know that we are the largest consumer of oil in the world, and we're probably going to need oil, so they have that collective power. Now, I also have to put myself in the shoes of some of those OPEC countries. So here are some of the OPEC countries. The original OPEC members, Iran, Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. Those are the OG OPEC members, but it's changed over the years. Now you've got Indonesia, Libya, UAE, Algeria, Nigeria, Gabon, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Congo, and there's a few others here that I just didn't get to add to this list. And some, like Ecuador, have added to it and then removed themselves. So just showing you that the combined power collective of OPEC, where it's a lot of different countries that have this control. Now, pick any one of those countries and say that you are from that country. Let's just use Indonesia, for example. I don't know what Indonesia's output is. I'm sure it's relatively small, but one thing you got to know about oil is it's fixed supply. They call it peak oil, right? There's only so much oil in the ground, and as they start extracting oil, it's going to slowly start. Oh yeah, Russia's on there. Yeah, how can I miss Russia? It's like you missed one of the most important ones in there. Or at least working with them, right? If you're Indonesia and you have a finite amount of oil, it makes, let's say you're estimating, have 100 million barrels worth of oil in your country. Well, it makes more sense for you to sell those barrels at $100 versus $70. It's just, because you're going to run out over time, you may as well make use and get the best amount of money for that. So, one thing that I remembered vividly when I was traveling through Dubai, which is United Arab Emirates, which is a member of OPEC, is I was on a tour, and I don't think most people would have thought about this, but the tour guide was awesome. I asked him about the oil production in Dubai, and he goes, look, they know they're going to run out of oil, which is why you see them spending so much money on building an infrastructure and the city itself, so when oil runs out, they'll have a business epicenter for the Middle East will be Dubai, which is very smart because at some point they're going to run out of oil, and if you don't build up your infrastructure and have another business plan, you're screwed. So these guys all would like to have higher priced oil. So let me go through a couple of charts here, which I think you guys might find interesting. One of the big things that has been a driver of the decline in inflation, right? Inflation obviously been a big talk track for everybody, political figures and central banks, etc. What we did is we started tapping into our strategic oil reserves here in the U.S. and releasing a lot of the strategic oil reserves in an attempt to drop the price of oil so that the American consumer doesn't feel as much of a pinch at the pump. Now, of course, that's a very political move. And of course, if you're a Democrat, you're going, yeah, we did this. We dropped the price of oil. Well, you tapped into the strategic reserve, which hasn't really been tapped into before, at least not to the extent that we did. So here's our strategic reserve, just so you guys can see that. Let's just go 5 years. So you can see back here in 2018, we had about 660 million barrels reserve. And all of a sudden, as prices started soaring in 2021, they cut that significantly. So now we're at 371 million barrels in our strategic reserve. And the president has said, look, I want to refill these reserves at around $70 per barrel. Now, if you look at the price chart here, that's probably not going to happen anymore. So now the cost for us to fill up our reserves and kind of protect ourselves a little bit is getting higher and higher and higher. To me, this starts to become a very, very interesting political chess game, because we put ourselves in a situation where we obviously have a lot of oil. However, our emergency, think of it like your savings in your checking account. You just cut it almost in half. You still have money in there, but it may not be enough to cover all of your needs going forward should the doo-doo hit the proverbial fan. Sorry, one of my German shepherds is acting really odd. Anyway, so that to me is an interesting part, because you might remember the Road Warrior, Mad Max, right? That was all about people fighting for gas, couldn't get gas, and it was just these gangs out there. Well, if we put ourselves in a situation where we don't have enough oil reserves, strategic oil reserves, and all of a sudden something were to happen to our oil production, or maybe even the imports, what does that ultimately do? I mean, does that create a Mad Max type of situation where all of a sudden we're, put locks in your gas cap because everyone's trying to steal your gas? It's just a tough commodity. Just throwing weird hypothetical scenarios out there. But that strategic oil reserve is interesting because it's declined so much. And you'll notice that it hasn't gone up at all, right? They stopped tapping into that right around the beginning of right at the end of 2022. And it hasn't changed yet. They have not put anything back into that. So that's nerve-wracking. The other part here was production. And I just wanted to show you this because when I mentioned a bunch of statistics, it'd be nice to be backed up by actual facts. This is from the EIA, which is the Energy Information Administration. You can see here in 2020, when COVID hit, production just slammed because everything was just being shut down. Now we're creeping our way back up. We're doing about 12.4 million barrels per day. But as I mentioned, our consumption is right around 20 million barrels per day. So we have a decline there. Yeah, I wanted to bring this one up to you as well. It kind of surprises me the amount of inconsistent information with regards to this data. So here you can see it says 16.6 million barrels per day for the U.S. Well, if I look at the EIA, it's showing you 12.4. So this is way off, but you get the gist here that we are bigger than Russia, we're bigger than Saudi Arabia, and all these other countries here, etc. I had a couple other interesting little charts. Let me see if I can find these ones for you. I like this one because this is from the EIA, and I'm all about current information. One of the reasons I actually do like looking at things like GDP, construction spending, inflation data is it's usually 1 month old. You go to the EIA, and a lot of this data is like 6 months or a year old. Like here's the last report that they have on this U.S. petroleum production was in 2020. So they haven't done an updated chart of this one in over 2 years. Just kind of blows my mind. Why was more oil not bought when CL was negative in 2020 of April? Well, I think part of that, Robert, is they didn't have a place to put it. That's why it was negative, is because there was no place to store it. Our capacity to store the oil was full. That's why those contracts went negative. Because if you took delivery, what are you going to do with thousands of barrels of oil? You got no place to put it, and it's a physical delivered commodity. So you'd have been screwed if you held that through expiration. That's why. So people were just trying to unload those contracts just to get out of it, but there wasn't a place to keep the oil. So it would be nice to fill up our reserves even more. But yeah, I don't know why. If you see this right here, we were already fairly full with our capacity back in 2020. Man, that was April of 2020. Right here is when it bottomed out. We were at 634 million barrels in our reserves. There you go. At least we have Canada, just in case we have war. Yeah, as long as we don't piss off Canada, our lovely neighbors to the north out there. So I look at a couple different things. Number one, you have the political tension and the talk about now China paying for crude oil from Russia in yuan, maybe a changing of the reserve currency, so you have some stress there. You have OPEC saying that we're going to drop supply to the tune of 3.3 million barrels per day. That's the result of 2 cuts, not just the one today, but there was a production cut back in October of last year, which brings a total of about 3.36 million barrel contraction. So if we look at the basic drivers of price, supply and demand, summer months are coming. Demand is going to be increasing this summer. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be driving places. I'm looking forward to going and traveling a little bit more this summer. I got some time off now and a little bit less work, so more for me to go do and enjoy. If that's the case, then I need to buy gas. And because there's supply cuts from OPEC, again, 3.36 million barrels, the cost of that gas is going to get more expensive for me. Now, that may deter a lot of people from traveling. Now, it could also impact ultimately down the road jet fuel prices and airline transportation costs, as they may start to soar as well. But what does it ultimately mean? It ultimately means that most likely the highest probability here is that this is going to continue to move on up. Now, I'm kind of waiting for a small little pullback here. I think the 1.1 million barrel cut wasn't overly dramatic given the global supply. I think it was 3% of total supply was cut today. Well, we had a 6.38% jump today in crude oil. If we do get above this, let's call it 82.50, I'd be pretty interested in going long on it with the thought that we'll get to that 92 mark, which is another $10 higher from current levels. So let me ask this one again. What do you mean you have more time off? I have more time off. I'm not working as much. We're doing less work. I'm going to ask this question again just to see if the numbers have changed. And I told you I have a... All right, so let me ask this one again. We were at 66 earlier, I believe, was our number earlier. Let me get the results there just so I can have that in front of me. Market says, please, no oil 100. Yeah, I don't really want it either. So earlier we had a 66% saying yes, we'd see 100, 30% saying no, and then I can reveal what my thoughts are on that issue. And I'll leave that with it for just a minute. So if you look at the price of oil, I actually am in the camp of we're going to have $100 oil. It just feels like that's the direction we're going. We're going to have more demand in the summertime coming. That's typically when you get the most demand for crude oil or for gasoline. I don't know. It just feels like it's been wanting to do that. We'll have to wait and see how it ultimately pans out. We've been on a beautiful downtrend starting in June of 2022. If I look at the long-term price chart of crude oil here, let's go weekly. Let's go monthly. Let's go way out. Do I think we get up to 120? No, I don't think 120. But the move that started from these COVID lows, that negative $40 print, you're making higher highs, higher lows. This is certainly a huge pullback, but I don't know. I feel like we'll be heading higher. And again, this is just total differences of opinions here. The numbers have changed. Earlier it was 66% said yes. Now we're half and half, 50-50. So the evidence must have changed, swayed some people here in their vote, or they just decided not to vote. Big Eb says 65 to 85 seems like T-bar zone for C. Yes, it is. It's that big Y. We had it in there. We had that on there for a long time. The big yellow box for T-bar. Yeah, there it is right there. And that's the box we had before. But I removed it once we broke down below right here. I figured that was time to remove that one. And well, it's crazy. It's kind of like coming back into play. Does that mean that Saudi is working along with the Russians? Well, look, I don't know. I'm not a fly on the wall. It would be really interesting to see what those discussions would be like. Would it surprise me that... I don't think it would come as any surprise to anybody in this room. If it does come as a surprise, then tell me, that would surprise the hell out of me. But would anybody here be surprised if China, Russia, all the Asian countries, including the OPEC countries, kind of work together and almost set up their own structure, whether that's a reserve currency, but even oil distribution within their closed group, and try to shut out the U.S.? Would not be surprised there. I think that a lot of those countries are benefiting from U.S. Stimulus, if you can call it that, where the government just sends them money. So that might be apprehension on the part of some of those countries to shun the U.S., but ultimately, it feels like there's a growing power between China, Russia, and some of these other BRICS countries. So anyway, you just don't know where things are going to be going forward. We'll see. What does the percentage work out to be for OPEC production cut versus the total production? So Brian, I believe that 1.16 million barrel production would have been a cut of about 3%. That's the number that I was reading out there. Conoco and Hess are big winners. A lot of these guys. But I mean, I wish I had XLE ETF broken apart here so I could see how they all performed today. Because obviously, let's go look at ConocoPhillips here. Let's go ConocoPhillips, the cop. ConocoPhillips up 9% today. Let's go to Chevron. Chevron's up only 4%. ExxonMobil is a 5.9. Go Hess. I don't know that symbol off the top of my head, but go Hess Corporation. Yeah, 8.44. So a lot of these oil companies doing really good today, and of course that's why you saw XLE have a very nice jump to the tune of about 4.53%. But if we strip out the fact that this is XLE, where do we come back up to? Right? I mean, my mind works in supply and demand zones. Some do, some don't. But we tapped it today. This is why I was looking at buying puts today, potentially on XLE. But nah, I just couldn't do it. Again, they were really expensive, and I'm already long XLE, so that'll be taken away from me at $84. Why was more? Okay, we already did that one. When the U.S. got off the gold standard, we also made agreements with Saudi Arabia approving weapons. Yep. Yeah, but at a certain point, every offer is great until another offer comes along. So yes, the U.S. has been supporting them with arms and weapons and money and just being an ally. But think of it like a professional football team. I was talking to a friend today about Brandon Ayuk, who's the wide receiver for the 49ers, and great player. I'd hate to see him go. However, they might be getting rid of him because they can get a lot more from other people. So, it's the allegiance will switch there to whoever's got the most money and who's going to be the best benefit for that player or that team. And I think, politics is the same way. And it's interesting seeing the jockeying for position right now with our conversation we had about the dollar, or dollar being the reserve currency, that might be slowly changing. And well, I'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on it. Perhaps I should retool for lower sulfur refinement. I would hope that we would find ways to more efficiently refine our oil. I know that's been a big challenge with our type of oil. There's multiple types of oil. I think that the Saudi Arabian one is like the cleanest oils, easiest to refine. But I don't know. I'm not an oil expert in that sense. Why free time now? I just got more free time to do. Yeah. I don't think anybody here would be surprised about that, right? Anyway, Venezuela not using a dollar to buy China oil. Yeah, absolutely. Saudis are discussing using non-USD, to transact with BRICS. Saudi can take yuan for oil and turn around. Exactly. And that's the concern right now is, Tom, at what point does that change the way that business is done? If all of a sudden Saudi Arabia says, hey, we'll take yuan for our oil because they know they're buying goods from China, let's be honest, that's a smart move for Saudi Arabia. Why do you have to have the dollar as this third wheel where I can just do business with China? Okay, I'm getting yuan from you. I'm going to give you that yuan right back. I got a two-way street here versus I got to pay in dollars. Now I got this three-way thing going. Doesn't work very well. So it seems smart on the part of the Saudis, but you know what that's going to do. That's going to create tensions, going to create political turmoil, and hopefully not physical violent conflict, which we hope that doesn't happen, but the way that some of the times these things work out. Yep, more time for dog walkies. I do 3 a day now. My dog loves the 3 a day walks. It's so funny. I think he just doesn't like loud noise or constant talking, so he actually went and hid in the bathroom over there. Anyway. All right, so that was my little talk track on the crude oil thing today. Obviously, that was a big market mover. There's a ton of things moving these markets today, but let me move on topics here unless you guys have more questions on that. I want to real quickly run into our top 7, and then I've got a couple questions from viewers that I want to get into. Let's start at the bottom, work our way to the top. Bitcoin. I saw a lot of April Fool's jokes about Bitcoin. Man, they're talking about giving me ulcers. Oh, I saw one Bitcoin meme that showed a chart, and the chart went from $28,000 down to $10 per Bitcoin, and it said somebody cracked SHA-256 consensus mechanism. Here goes the markets. And I was like, oh my God, no, that can't happen. 3 a day. Okay, Katie, we challenge it. I already went on one. I'm going to do another walk right after the show, and I'll go another one this evening. So 3 a day. Boom. My dog is happy to be walking. Challenge my 3 walks a day. All right, so let's start at the bottom. We started with Bitcoin, which was down 1.6%, but again, I don't care, right? We have consolidation. This yellow box just shows prices traversing sideways. The longer we hold this, the more bullish it will be for Bitcoin, so pretty good news. Again, I think with more political turmoil, more issues from our regulators, it will drive people more to Bitcoin, which is pure money away from banks. But it was your worst performer today. NASDAQ, which was down had a pretty good down percentage today, about 1% earlier, finishing only down 0.24%. Down 2.24% on the day for the NASDAQ 100. But you guys tell me, what do you see here? All right, when you look at this chart of the NASDAQ, I will leave this chart up here. I will look at two different charts. I'll bring up the NASDAQ futures, which is what we have here. But let's look at QQQs. Look what happened at the end of the day. Right, this is, again, a very popular candlestick formation. This is actually called a bearish harami. And I know some of you are going to say that this needs to be read. It does not. It's just showing you that it's a bit weaker than yesterday, that the momentum may have slowed down because it's not making a new high, but also not making a new low. This is typically a reversal pattern. So for anybody watching this that might be active tomorrow in the markets, I would say if you get a break down below 317.42 on the Qs tomorrow, right? It's got to open up above that red line, but starts to drop back down, then I expect to see more downside movement here for the NASDAQ 100, which already had some weakness today because of the oil production, lots of petroleum products impacting tech. So that's your first chart out there was the NASDAQ, which down 0.24%, but then it starts to turn positive here. You've got the Russell 2000, which has what's called basically a spinning top. Some call it a long-legged doji. Basically, the Russell opened and closed at roughly the same price on the futures market, had a long topping tail, long bottoming tail, which represents indecision, which would also somewhat confirm some bearishness for tomorrow. Let's see, S&P 500 up 0.39%. It was definitely the better of the bunch, but look where we are, all right? This is why I love technical analysis. We are coming right up to that that downward sloping trend line across the highs on the S&P futures that started August 17th of last year. Our second point of contact was February of this year, and now all of a sudden we're seeing our third point of contact, which verifies this downtrending line. It's just compression. So we are also in an area of supply. So I'm seeing more arguments for a down day tomorrow. Again, anything can happen, but I just see more ducks lining up for a reversal type of day, a bearish day for the S&P and that NASDAQ, and potentially even the Russell. Let me go to gold. GC, gold is up 0.71%. Notice sticking right to it. Boy, we closed today at 2,000 even, right? You're right on that line this exact second, and that's this line we had drawn here saying 2,000 is kind of the important one. It looks bullish, like this is going to pop to the upside, and I hope it does so I can get rid of this horrible drawing that I've drawn in my charts. I don't like it. Derek might be Darren Komodo would be a good guest to have on anytime. He's just so dang busy, I can never get him on. All right, top two, we have the Dow. Dow was up 0.97% today, looking the best of all of them. Not only did it not stall at this supply zone, we talked about this on Friday, right? It finished right in that supply zone. And I said, if the markets were open on Saturday, it would have been a great trade. We opened up just slightly down and then ripped pretty much the remainder of this session here for Dow futures. And you came right up into this next level of supply, which is right here. And now we are in the middle of that one. There you go. And ultimately, we'll probably end up being that 34,200. So, looks good. I mean, the Dow does not look like it's in a reversal formation, even though it is coming in a supply zone. It's just been getting stronger and stronger. Those candles are getting bigger. And if I go here and add on volume, you're seeing volume stay the same and prices are moving up substantially. Now, what that tells you is if you have prices accelerating, but the amount of transactions are staying the same, it just means that the sellers are backing away. The sellers are not selling. They're saying, I'm going to sell at a higher price. So the sellers have canceled their sell orders, moved their prices up, and will be selling at a higher price. So this is why you look for those overhead supply zones. That 33.8 might be one, but normally you like to see a huge spike in volume on surges like this to kind of show you that the emotion. In this case, it's just people backing away from their offers to sell, and that's causing prices to move up. Let me see here. Why is the dollar dropping with these high interest rates? Don't the rates invite investment of buying of the dollar? Why is the dollar dropping with these high interest rates? Well, the dollar is dropping because interest rates have been falling. If you look here for the 10-year, right? The 10-year, the dollar, so the 10-year has been falling. So this is your yield. And the more that declines, the more likely people are looking to get out of dollars. So these kind of go hand in hand. A rising dollar generally means you have yields rising. But because we've seen since March, the dollar has, or the yield has been falling, you're seeing similar picture here with the dollar. So the dollar and yield go kind of hand in hand. Let's see, what else do I got? Wedges and trying. Yep, all those princes, diplomats, kids go to school in Ivy League colleges, Stanford, US, wouldn't want to be. I don't think they got anything to worry about there, Alexa. I think they'll be fine. Those guys have so much money, they don't know what to do with. All right, so that's your broad markets. I didn't really see anything else there that was not noteworthy. Natural gas continued to get slaughtered. The reassuring part for anybody who's long on natural gas is that it hasn't closed below this $2 mark. So that's positive in this sea of just nothing but negatives since March 3rd. I mean, the month of March was just absolutely brutal for natural gas. If you look at the monthly returns, let's go to the exact low. 26% slide, but it's peak to trough. It was down almost 34%. Crazy month for natural gas. All right, let's see what time I got. 30 minutes after. Let me go into a couple listener questions here just so I can get those out of the way. Linda says, I have shared with you about having crypto assets stuck in Voyager. You probably already know this, but I didn't know it. My assets can be transferred to Binance.us. All I had to do was opt in. No, that is not true, Linda. That is absolutely not true. So what you did is you have said, I will want my assets transferred to Binance.us when the deal is done. So Binance is, I believe it was, $1.2 billion. They were going to buy all the assets of Voyager for $1.2 billion. The SEC and other regulators said, no, we don't agree with this. We want to block that deal. A judge said, you haven't given me enough information to block this deal. The deal's going to go through. Just last week, another federal judge said, no, we're going to uphold this deal for right now just because we want to see what's a security and what's not. They're selling unregistered securities. So, that part right there is going to be an ongoing soap opera. So you're not going to get any assets at Binance.us until this gets resolved and the courts say the deal can go through. Now, when that deal goes through, you're not going to get your assets. So let's say you had 1,000 Litecoin. You might end up getting 500 Litecoin. Right? You might get half. The original deal, which is supposed to be between FTX and Voyager, was supposed to give you 71% of your holdings. That deal fell through. This new deal is lower, so it might be 50% of your holdings, but at least you get something. That's terrible. You mean Doge? You mean Dogecoin there, Ganesh? Probably. I'll bring that up in just a second. If trading oil futures in order to not get stopped out on a stop hunt, would you sell puts or calendar spreads or not do a stop loss? No, look, so you're not big enough. No offense. I don't know how much money you're trading, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're not a guy who's going to get taken out. If you're in 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 contracts, no big deal. They're not going to stop hunt you. It's bigger institutional size that can get manipulated. We're little mosquitoes in the whole grand scheme of things in financial markets. We're small enough where we're not really going to be noticed. So I wouldn't worry about stop hunting. Remember, you're going through a centralized exchange there if you're trading oil futures, so you should be fine. Interesting, non-farm payroll is this Friday morning, but stock market is closed. Does that mean Monday could be volatile while it absorbs Friday news? Are we closed Friday? Oh, yeah, we are. Well, let me verify that one because I didn't look at that one. Yeah, because you have the unemployment rate comes out on Friday as well. Yeah, so Friday is Good Friday, which always strikes me as an odd. Why did you call that Good Friday? It seems like that should be called Bad Friday. Anyway, yeah, good question. I'm not sure about that one, Liz. You have unemployment claims or non-farm payrolls, and you have the unemployment rate coming out on Friday, which let me check here. I had the economic calendar where I did Monday Morning Must-Knows for OTA, and yeah, you can still see we're still getting that economic data is going to come out. You have average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and unemployment rate all coming out on Friday, and markets will be closed. Strange, don't know. Yeah, they'll probably create more volatility for your Monday session, just making it even more wild on Monday. Let's see. So Dogecoin, let's talk real quickly about Dogecoin. This obviously is a joke, right? Dogecoin was created as a joke. It was designed as humor. That's it. Taking advantage of kind of the market at the time where you could create a cryptocurrency very quickly and easily. Now Elon Musk is the ultimate troll out there. He changed the logo on Twitter today from the bird to the Dogecoin symbol, and of course Doge rocketed. Let me show you the price chart here. There's your price chart of Doge. If anything, I would have gone short Doge on this, as it approached that 10-cent mark. Elon is always just joking around. If he understands, and this is kind of the weird part about it, if you look at, let me check that one real quick. If you look at Elon Musk's involvement with or knowledge of Dogecoin, he doesn't quite understand it. He's like, oh, it does a lot more transactions than Bitcoin. That's true. Its TPS is higher, but it's still a proof of work cryptocurrency. It doesn't really have much of a use case scenario. There are dozens of other ones, and it's so much better. I mean, hell, even Ethereum would be better than Dogecoin as a currency medium. But you could go to something like EOS, which is free transactions, right? And doesn't use mining equipment. You could use something like Solana or Aptos or Sui. There's so many different things. So this is a joke. This is just fun with Elon Musk is having with it. I'm sure that he's going to start getting some more SEC stuff coming after him because he's pumping Dogecoin. I bet he had his lawyer look into this one to make sure he was okay with that one. Created my Binance account through the app 8 days ago. Still reviewing. Is that normal? Joe, I can't tell you that one. I don't remember. I created mine years ago, so I remember it did take a few days to go. But just keep following up. Just keep following up with them. And which one are you doing? I'm sure you're doing Binance.us. So Binance.us, maybe they're slowing down their account process, being more thorough because of the regulatory pressure. Not really sure what's going on there, but Binance is. I like using Binance. There's always the risk these exchanges could go under, but I like Binance, especially for Bitcoin. Let's see. Catherine, AMC thoughts. Moving down after market on news of a reverse split. Need to be increased diluted shares. I guess that counter prior rumors Amazon may be purchased. Yeah, I think that almost that Amazon thing was a April Fool's joke. Does that make sense to anybody? Like, I can't picture Amazon wanting to go into physical theater. It flies in the face of what Amazon represents online. So here's AMC down 23% after hours. Wow. Doesn't surprise me. I think long term we'll be okay, but I just don't see Amazon needing to be buying theaters. That's a pretty big purchase. Maybe they make them a really sweet deal. But it popped up here. This day right here was the rumor that Amazon was going to be looking into buying AMC. There was no deal per se, but that was the rumor that was going around, and maybe that was a pre-April Fool's joke. But that was on the Tuesday, the 28th, and today you are now currently trading down here at 393, which goes right back to the lows that go all the way back into 2023, at the beginning of the year. So, not really sure what to make about it. Amazon bought. That's true, Tom. You're right. They did go. But, I would look at Whole Foods as the profit margin there is amazing, right? Whole Foods is way overpriced food, and there will never be a period where you and I stop eating. Movie theaters, I think, might be a bit different, but, who knows? Obviously, Jeff Bezos and team are way smarter than I'll ever be because they got $1 trillion market cap, and I don't. Is Elon the anti-Cramer? I don't know. I think if I had to take advice from somebody, I would absolutely take it from Elon Musk over Jim Cramer. That's for sure. So, there was a great meme going around this weekend. It was some guy, and he said, I want Jim Cramer to be the guy that lowers me, that is at my funeral and is the one lowering me down so he can let me down one more time. I thought that was pretty good. Way overpriced popcorn. Man, I mean, you go to those places. I used to smuggle in the microwave popcorn when I got there. I was like, you have this big puffy parka on. Yeah, $15 for a small popcorn and a small drink. That's just insane. All right, what are the questions that I have here? Oliver, you asked me this one the other day, and since you're here, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. Do you think people are taking their money out of banks and putting in these online brokerage firms, apps, exchanges, which guarantees the insurance of the money if a broker goes under? I know like the app public offers where you can buy T-bills and return on investment is 4%. So I think the people that are pulling their money out are people who have more than $250,000. I don't really think it's your average retail person. There's really nothing to worry about. And if you go into an online brokerage firm, there's a couple different ways they can do it. And it is important for you to talk to your broker and understand what their policy is. But some brokers will keep it as cash, right? And that's going to get FDIC protection. So some of these brokers actually have banks set up. So they'll keep your cash as a cash deposit, and that'll be FDIC protected. Others, when you are sitting in cash, they will automatically put you in a money market fund, an interest-bearing account, which is a security. Therefore, you are now covered up to $500,000 for protection. Again, it's not going to really do much for anybody who's got millions of dollars sitting in an account. So I don't really think that I wouldn't put too much emphasis on people leaving these banks in droves to put it into a brokerage firm. I mean, if that was the case, look at Charles Schwab, which has been really suffering here. You would think some deposits would be going in there, right? So no, I don't think that that's a big factor in what's going on with regards to withdrawals. I think what more importantly is it's people who have 10, 50, $100 million saying, okay, what's the safest thing for me to do with my money so that it doesn't disappear? Like, anybody who had $50 million in Silvergate or Silicon Valley Bank is very lucky. Couldn't be more lucky. Go buy another lotto ticket because you basically just won the lotto because you should have lost everything above $250,000. These rules might change. We might get protection unlimited on deposits. I doubt that will happen because then why do we need a bank? Why don't we just have a Fed account? If the Fed's going to backstop everything and FDIC is going to backstop it all, there's no need for a bank. So, did you hear about the alleged leak from somebody saying that the largest Dogecoin wallet? Yeah, that one got me. That one got me, Liz. So, Coin Bureau, he does some pretty good content. He said, breaking news, and I forgot that it was April Fool's. And this one got me a hook, line, and sinker. He says there's a hacker out there that actually got into the SEC's database, and he's like, breaking news, this is going to blow your mind. This is going to change everything on Monday. Says a hacker got into the SEC's database, and while they were going through and found all kinds of information and thoughts, meeting minutes on different topics, there was one where they had a list of accounts. And in this account, they had the largest wallet position of Dogecoin. So the SEC actually had the largest wallet position in Dogecoin, and they were supposed to testify this week. So he's like, they're going to have a lot of questions to answer if that's the case. And I was like, oh my God. If the SEC has Dogecoin on their balance sheet, could you imagine the hypocrisy that's going to come? How are they going to fight that one? Anyway, it was an April Fool's joke. It was an absolute April Fool's joke. I am concerned about the Coinbase. We talked about this one in the past, Rajesh. Coinbase has serious backing. They've got tons of money behind them and very big, powerful people. It's not just the money, it's the powerful people, I think, is the most important part. BlackRock. You got BlackRock in your corner, you should be good. So as Rajesh says, and we've talked about, the regulators are coming down hard on all crypto exchanges. That's no surprise. But Coinbase has the resources monetarily and power-wise to fight it. So I'm happy the SEC has done what they've done against Coinbase, because if you look at what Coinbase has done, they have literally gone to the SEC and said, we would like to register these securities, but please tell us what to do and how to do it. And then the SEC says, we're suing you for selling unregistered securities. So in the eyes, in any court of law, it's going to look like the SEC has been absolutely unreasonable. They did not give clarity on anything, and they're forcing their political hand here and manipulating businesses. That should win the court case for Coinbase. That's a risk you got to take, Rajesh. I mentioned this one a while back. I was actually really bullish on Coinbase, but I didn't buy it because I was a little bit nervous. Oh, this is a weekly. I think it was the end of last year. I was like, Coinbase long term will probably be a good buy and hold. Long term. Fortunately, it's gone from $30, down here at these lows last year, $30. Now it's already doubled that. Do we get back up to 200, 300, 400? It'll take a long time to get there in my mind, but I feel decent about Coinbase's chance of survival. Again, there's always going to be risk, especially with Elizabeth Warren and her quote-unquote army coming after crypto. That could always be a problem that impacts these markets. So I think we'll be fine. All right, let me get to your economic calendar for tomorrow so I can wrap up here, because I told you I got 3 walks a day for my dog, and he wants a walk. You want to go for a walk? Yeah, he's hiding from me. All right, so here's your economic calendar for the 4th of April. Walking down from the top to the bottom, you see some stuff going on for Europe. You have PPI numbers, so maybe get a little inflationary number for the U.S. If you scroll down further, you get to the U.S. stuff, which is JOLTS job openings, factory orders, and the IBD tip economic optimism data. And then you also have a little bit later on that day, member Cook will be speaking from the FOMC, which isn't the biggest deal, but anytime FOMC members speak, it can have an impact on markets going forward. Next thing you got there is New Zealand with their cash rate. Tonight, actually this morning, 12:30 in the morning Eastern time, we'll have the announcement as well for Australia, which Australia is expected to stay at 3.6%, but New Zealand expected to jump 25 basis points from 4.75 up to 5%, and that's your major stuff. Now, tomorrow night after the show, you'll see you've got German factory orders as well as industrial production numbers, so quite a bit going on, and again, it gets really busy as we start to get down towards the end of the week near Friday. All right. So tomorrow I'm going to have Justin Krebs on the program, and I wanted to talk to him kind of about hedging and market timing and retirement accounts, because as a trader, market timing, it's commonplace, right? Everyone's trying to time these markets and the up moves, down moves. But what are some of the criteria or things that people look at from a longer term perspective? Since Justin is financial advisor, we'll look at that and see bigger picture. If there's things that you guys would like me to ask Justin tomorrow, send those in sooner rather than later. You can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com or put them down below any YouTube video. I'll check those tonight. I'll send them over to Justin tomorrow so that we can kind of have a head start on it. But there's a lot of information with regards to investments, retirement planning, 401ks, SEPs, IRAs, all that stuff that I, in my mind, know quite a bit about it, but you may not. So if you don't understand all that stuff, ask the questions so I can get those over to Justin and he can clarify anything for you. The way things work, the mechanics or strategies, tactics, that sort of thing. So again, email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com or go to YouTube, put your comments down below, and I will see you guys on tomorrow's show. That said, have a fantastic remainder of your day. Oh, did I not show it? Hold up. Hey, I'm going to do a little bit of foreshadowing here and see if I can bring up one last little graphic for you. Now, of course, you saw the flights come in. You know what's going to be happening tomorrow, right? It's going to be a very interesting day tomorrow, and I wanted to bring this picture up here because I made this one with Midjourney, and I like the way this one came out. It was kind of a cool picture that foreshadows tomorrow's event. So here we go. All right, there it is. So you saw his plane left Florida today, it landed in New York, and now all the talk track is what's going to happen in this absolute circus that's going to start tomorrow. Donald Trump will be, I guess, submitting himself or surrendering to authorities tomorrow to have this pomp and circumstance, and they'll be fingerprinting him. I don't know if he'll be in cuffs, but the picture will look something similar to this, where he'll be surrounded by police officers, and it's going to be an absolute media circus out there tomorrow. So be careful. You might see some very unpredictable market moves based off of this and the entire circus that goes with it. Just the airplane today, there was like 50 different cameras looking at that airplane. So you can imagine how crazy it's going to be when he gets to that courthouse. Anything goes wrong, market's going to go nuts. Anything goes right, market's going to go nuts. It's going to be a lot of volatility out there. So be careful tomorrow. So what will the press do when they don't have Trump? Who knows? We'll find somebody else to be the scapegoat. But Trump loves the limelight. He loves this type of stuff. He's in his element, right? This is his biggest reality show TV thing. You thought, what was it? The Intern? What was the one? The Apprentice, right? You're fired. Well, he'll have some other catchphrase for this one tomorrow. But it'll be fun. It'll be wild. Just be careful because you might get whipsawed during tomorrow's activity. Anyway, have a fantastic remainder of your day, everybody. I will see you all tomorrow for maybe a debrief of what happened with Uncle Donald Trump. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.